we shake our heads and, we think we've seen it all. And how many presidential elections have we done on Fast Money?
I think this is our fourth.
This is
if
our
memory
fourth.
serves, right?
This is our fourth, and they've all been a little different. And we knew this one was going to be different. But what's going on now with this huge market move? It's so funny because unlike 2016, when the market overnight was kind of the story, and that the market has been very much like 2016, and very much often in the middle of the market. The market is making the call, right? The market, forget the polls. The market seems to weed through everything. It's amazing. But anyway, look, as of 4 p.m. or so here, the market seems to think Joe Biden is the president, and we have a GOP Senate.
Right.
And that's the perfect number.
And that's what you've been saying for a while. You said the best outcome for the market, politics aside, would be Joe Biden winning the presidency and the Senate being held by the Republicans and the House sort of status quo, which is effectively what we got. But, it looks like, although we want to make the call, it looks like things are a little too close to call.
Exactly right. This is too close to call. And when I hear too close to call, I go right back into what is always where I seem to find a reference point, into a bad 80s sitcom.
Okay.
And it's too close for comfort, man. Come on, Ted Knight.
Can I tell you?
I was about to say Ted Danson. Ted Knight, come on, man.
It might as well have been Ted Danson. It could have been Ted Bundy, and I didn't see any of those guys in it. It's just, it wasn't my jam. 80s sitcoms, I think part of the reason was I was just in college, so we didn't have a TV, number one, and I missed everything.
Stop.
No, not in college we didn't. I'm telling you.
Everybody did. I had a TV. Yes.
Bullshit.
I had a black and white. I had a black and white, bro. Everybody
did. You
did.
broed me. I like that. Well, that
right.
stands to reason. You grew up in southern Westchester. I didn't have a TV in Croton, let alone my dorm room in Harvard.
No, in fact, I'm not sure you guys had running water, and it explains a lot. But no, too close for comfort. Two chicks living in a townhouse with their parents because they couldn't afford an apartment or something. I don't know. And again, these chicks were kind of babes, and they were living with Ted Knight or Judge Smales or whatever his name is in real life, and the mother, whoever it was. And it reminds me of that Tom Hanks sitcom from the 80s. It was basically the same thing.
Which is what?
Bosom buddies. Come on, dude. Where were you?
I know the premise of that show is two guys, they had to dress like women in order to garner this apartment.
That's right.
For whatever reason. That is a straight ripoff, by the way, of Jack Lemmon and Marilyn Monroe's Some Like It Hot from the 1950s. They're just ripping shit off left and right.
Maybe, but who's alive for that, dude? Where are you pulling that reference?
I went and saw that at the theater. It was part of a double feature.
I'm sure you did. No, Bosom Buddies, by the way, had you don't know the sitcom. You don't remember Tom Hanks. It was his breakout role. Right. Him and Peter Scolari dressed as ladies, dressed as chicks. But the theme song of that was "My Life" by Billy Joel. Man, it was part of the breakout. I know you're a huge Billy Joel fan.
No,
He's
that
also,
song,
by the way,
that song
a big
is
fan of Commercial Break. Billy Joel's probably watching this now somewhere in Roslyn or Oyster Bay.
Well, he probably heard the BAB guys on with us because he's a big BAB guy as well. Point. Shout out to those folks.
By the way, Deborah Van Valkenburg from Bosom Buddies is the brunette. There's a blonde and a brunette. They're both cute.
If memory serves, you got a big T-shirt on. She was in the Warriors.
She was in the Warriors
with James Remmer, who was in 48 Hours.
It's Remar, by the way.
Remmer,
And in the Warriors, he was Ajax, and he was he was a piece of work, right? So Mercy was the chick who was basically the gang babe for this really B-rated, low budget, off the beaten track. I think it was the Orphans. She was their babe. Warriors come rolling through. She sees Swan, who's the striking kind of guy.
Yeah, Swan. That's Swan. Who played Swan? Jeff Beck or somebody? Michael Beck.
Nice job. The Warriors, by the way.
I knew it wasn't Jeff Beck.
Incredible. To me, one of my favorite movies, and one of the things that I still have yet to do is I want to find 20 of my buddies. So you're in on this.
I'm in.
And what we do is we start out in Central Park.
Reenact it.
We got to bop on back to Coney, dude. It will be so good. But great. We talked about soundtracks last night. The soundtrack for the Warriors. Go back and listen to that. But In the City. by the Eagles, or it's actually Joe Walsh.
You think about it; those guys all had decent solo careers. I mean, Glenn Fry, we can talk about his acting career, but
he did.
Not
he did.
Not awful. Not awful.
Dude, Glenn Fry, if you get into the Miami Vice stuff and the Top Gun stuff, I mean, dude, Glenn Fry had as big of a solo career as Henley. I know that's hard to believe, but I'd say he probably did. Anyway, Deborah Van Valkenburg, the Warriors, and just so Ajax, who was also Gans in 48 Hours, Billy Bear was actually one of the baseball Furies. So he was the guy. I swear, they're all in the same movies. If you go back and look at this, it's what makes it so good. And the guy who also played the Psycho, he was the guy, Luther. He was Luther. In 48 Hours. I mean, they're all so Billy Bear was the guy in the baseball Furies, the big dude, the guy who looked a bit like Paul Stanley from Kiss.
Sonny Landham, who was also in Predator, and he's the guy that said we're all going to die. I think Sonny Landham passed away. I think so. We should speak.
Swan, remember when Swan? He's getting chased. He's outnumbered by the Furies. He turns around and he throws the baseball bat at the guy's knees and takes him out. It's all right. So what's gonna take the market out of this? Because
here's one for you.
All right.
Mercedes Rule, young Mercedes Rule was in. I mean, like some bit part, I think, in the Warriors, if memory serves.
Was she in the Lizzies?
I don't.
You know what gang that was, right? Right. And look, all right,
it's such a great movie.
It's one of the scariest scenes in that movie, in a movie that actually at times was kind of scary. So so back to the market. I think this is a little scary because the certainty that was the uncertainty that almost the market was ready for today. I don't think the market's ready for true all of the tricks that are going to get pulled out by the White House to go and not just try to discredit the write-in ballots that are going on. And by the way, this is not my politics. I'm just telling you what's unfolding right now and what it means for markets. Markets right now, and I think it's important for you can do this, and then I'll follow through to define why the markets are rallying. But I'm concerned that this 4-day rally in 2 days is going to face up to the reality of we do have uncertainty, folks. And actually, we have at least a precedent for the Supreme Court. Right now, my understanding is, and I'll leave this to the legal experts, is that what might be in question is still going to be held within the state's courts as it relates to how much time for votes, the procedures for counting them, as opposed to should there be a recount, which I believe was the big issue that involved the Supreme Court. And we know, boy, the plot thickens if you get the Supreme Court in here with Ms. Comey. Why is the market doing what it's doing today for folks at home?
I think it's because they didn't, in my opinion, and you spoke to this, so I'm not trying to steal from you, but I think the fact that it wasn't this huge blue wave, which I think the market really feared in terms of what it could do to regulation, what it could do to big cap tech, what it could do to taxes, any number of different things that I think the market was breathing a collective sigh of relief. I think actually the presidential election, I don't necessarily know one way or another if it had all that much impact, but to your point, this is not over yet in terms of who is going to be the next president, or if President Trump is going to have another 4 years, or if Joe Biden's going to have 4 years. I mean, this is not over yet. And my thesis last night was, the VIX at 40 was pricing a lot of unrest, but I thought you'd get some relief in the VIX. I didn't think it would be like based on this, but you never know what the outcome's going to be. But I thought high 20s was logical. But I also said you buy the VIX again if it gets there. And here we are, because to your point, I think this is the early innings of what's going to be very contentious, and it's at a certain point, very ugly battle. And I don't think the market's necessarily set up for that.
So what I say to that is basically, hey, Bappas, I think the big cap tech has rounded third and is heading for home. And by the way, I'd be careful. But we got to be careful. We got to bop on back over to CNBC.
Yeah, I got to put a shirt on. You got to take your bullseye shirt off and get this thing going.
Come out and play, guy. See you later.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.
All right.